Hello students, very good morning. How are you? So in this COVID situation, we again start the physics class for the class 7 especially, but it will be helpful for the class 6 and 8 and also the O level students, the basic conceptions of the English mediums. And this class is module for the radiant pupils or radiant students, and as it is the emergency or crisis situation, so we'll not linger or lengthen the class or take the big class or as usual classes, but we'll go to discuss with the book solves classes for the emergency purposes, and the students, you will enjoy the class. Today we'll discuss the energy, chapter 3 energy, and it is the last segment, the coping with cold. The student, we have the experience of the winters or cold seasons in our country, that it starts from the September to February like this. And then what happens, not only the cold seasons, but as well as the uh, mountain riders or mountain walkers or the old man and women, and for the babies and the sea divers, what happens to them in the situation of getting cold. Now we'll just start, and again we are following the book, the Stephen Popple, the physics higher triad. Now please open your book. So as well as the last classes, the similar way we are starting this. The thing is that the coping with cold in this chapter, uh, we learned whatever I told you, and we have segmented the chapter like this. In this chapter, the chapter outcomes, or what we would learn after completion of this segment, the coping with cold. The coping with cold, the basically we learned the what is the hypothermia, and hypothermia for whom the old men, here the old men, the babies, the mountain walkers, and the sea divers. And the second thing, the body heat mechanism. The body heat mechanism, here is a picture given in your book in this space, so we'll discuss it with the body heat mechanism, the picture like this. And the survival suits. So what happens to the survival suits? Survival suits for the mountain walkers and the sea divers. This is the survival suits for the mountain walkers and the sea divers. So these are the three things, basically 1 and 2 and 3. These are the three things we'll discuss today. We'll highlight these three things, and in between the three things, these are the sub points. Now please, we can go to the book. In here, the first picture, as well as you are observing here, the old man has cold hands, so that's why he's rubbing his hand. But at least the core of this, at least the core of his body is warm. That means what happens, the beyond the hand is open to the, or hand is exposed to the environment, but his body is covered, so the body temperature, it would be higher than the hand or the face temperature that was discussed here. And then his automatically temperature control system goes into action. So and the internal temperature, naturally in our body temperature, or the common the temperature would be the 37 degrees Celsius, and the temperature is controlled with the body. So what happens, whenever the hand and the face would be exposed in the environment, it will lose its heat, loss, the hand will lose its heat, the face will lose its heat, and the heat will be supplied from the body, and the body heat will be reduced from the 37 degree to the 35 or like this, or 34 or like this. So this would be the effect, is called the hypothermia. What is the hypothermia? So we get a little information about hypothermia. So hypothermia is a thing, that reduction of heat of the body when the body became cold. So if the body loses too much heat, the core the core temperature start to drop. If it drops more than 2 degrees Celsius, the body stop working properly, and the condition is called the hypothermia. In this book you just note it down, the if it is dropped more than 2 degree, the body stops working properly, and the condition is called the hypothermia. So these are the thing what is the hypothermia. In the on the next classes, the higher classes, we will learn about more about the hypothermia. So this is all about the sense the what the thing that the loss the body temperature is risky for us, and this is the called the hypothermia or hypothermic effect. So what happens to the old mans? So the old people, especially at risk from the hypothermia, every winter thousands of people because dies and cannot afford their, so they cannot afford to heat their homes properly. So why the old people are especially at risk from hypothermia? Because they cannot afford to heat their home properly, and also their body cannot give much more heat or cannot balance the heat in the winter seasons. That is the thing, that they cannot cope with the cold and the cope with the hypothermia. This is in your biology book you learned in the next classes that the thing, the homeostasis, the control mechanism of the body is called the homeostasis. So, and also like the old people like the young babies are also find it difficult to cope with the cold because they don't store much heat as the adult. So note the point, they don't store much heat as the adult. A loss of heat can be a more drastic effect, and cannot adjust sudden loss of heat of their temperature control system the fully developed, and also their temperature control system is not fully developed. So what, they cannot store body heat like the adult, and their temperature control system didn't develop as the adult. So that's why the small babies, they can affect by the hypothermia. That's why they are covered with the warm cloths like this, the warm cloths like the woolen cloths that traps the air inside it. So these are the things of the effect of the old men and the boys like this. Now we have discussed the old men and the babies. What happens to the mountain workers and the sea divers? So the mountain workers whenever in here the temperature, so if the wind has the speed of the 30 mile per hour, the wind has the same chilling effect if the temperature drop 40 degrees Celsius. What happens? Naturally, we face the wind, the speed of wind in the common days is 8 to 10 mile per hour like this, or the 2 to 4 mile per hour like this. But whenever it becomes a sharp wind like this, the sharp wind, the 30 mile per hour, it is the equivalent that the chilling effect of that 30 mile per hour wind has a 40-degree drop in the temperature. So the mountain workers should have the protection of the protection of the body by getting a suit for this, the chilling effect control or the hypothermic effect. And if the mountain workers make the accident, and if the exposure is much greater, the open wound or the open part would lose heat much more than the covered part, like this, and if the dress is the open like this, the open hands in here like this open face. So if the accident occurs and if the trouser became wired like this, the tear, uh, and it became bacon, and if it is open, so the heat loss would be much more faster than the covered part. So these are the things. And also for the sea divers, whenever you think that without the insulating suit, the North Sea diver would be suffering from the hypothermia in a matter of a minute, because the North Sea is too much colder. In this sea, the body loses heat over 20 times faster than in the cold air. So what happens in the North Sea, the seawater, the cold seawater in the North Sea is heat reducing effect more than 20 times than the cold air of the hill, mountain, or other way. So these are the things that makes the hypothermia. So what should we do to get away from that hypothermic effect? So we need to have that body mechanism, and also have the survival suits. So body mechanism, and to get away or to get rid or to protect the hypothermic effect, we need to develop our body mechanism, and survival suits is needed to cope with that environment. So what is the body mechanism? So if this is a body, and the internal core temperature of body usually common people is a 37 degrees Celsius. So the extra food burns to release the heat. So whenever we get the food, it gives the heat. The exercise produces heat to warm the body. Whenever rubbing our hand and moving and stretching our hand or like this, so it will give us the extra heat to protect from the cold. The instruction from the brain to put out the warm clothes. So also the brain gives us the instruction for coping the environment that we need the warm clothes. And the blood tubes narrow to stop blood carrying heat to the skin. So one thing is that here is the positive effect. Here's the positive effect, is the negative effect. Whenever we get cold, our blood vessel near the skin, so it became narrow. The artery that brings the blood from the heart to the skin, so it became narrow, and it cannot give much more heat. So that's why the protection is needed. Is needed with the cloths like this, or the plastics, or the boots, or the wooden jackets like this. Now shivering exercises muscles to produce the heat. So if we shivering like this, so it would also produce a few heat to protect from the cold, or the resist from the hypothermic effect. Now this is the body mechanism, how the body or the brain gives the instruction. Extra food gives the heat, to release the heat. Exercise warm up our body. The blood vessels are become narrowing, that cannot carry the lot of bloods for heating the thing, and the shivering exercise to produce the heat. So this is the body mechanism, how the body tries to cope with the environment whenever the body gets cold. Now this is the thing we have discussed it like this. And the survival suits, what happens at the survival suits? The survival suits like this. So here a student or a boy wear a wooden jacket with a trouser and a big socks with a boot, and having something in the hand. What those things are, we just need to see it. So draw sting the draw cords to protect the head and the cuff means the neck and the like this, and the hood reduced to the heat from the heat loss, and the waterproof anorak. And the waterproof anorak, this dress is anorak, one kind of dress is anoraks, and the loosened dress that can trap air, and the press stud, the flap. So this is the flap. In between the buttons there is a zipper. The flap is protect the zip that it cannot let the air go inside. The woolen trousers, not the jeans, with the hold the water and killing. Jeans hold the water and the killing, that means dust of the dust, air dust. So woolen or worsted trouser is better to wear for the mountain walkers or mountain riders like this. And this is a wooden socks like this. These are socks. The wooden thing are given here. That and these are the things. The polythene survival bag for the weather protection if even an accident. If any accident occurs, the polythene should be wrapped over, or if the wind is too much, it would be wrapped also the body. So waterproof boot gives the ankle support. Waterproof boots ankle support for the cold and also the accidental use. These are the thing the mountain walkers wears the dress should wears to cope with the environment, to cope with for coping the cold and getting out the hypothermia. And one thing is that we have discussed it earlier a few minutes back, that this is the cold sea diver. So it is tough. The North Sea is 20 times faster, that can reduce the heat from the cold air. So dry suits is a special suit made of neoprene. Neoprene, you need to memorize it. The neoprene provide the best insulation. More insulation comes from the thousands of the tiny nitrogen bubbles in the suit lining. In the dress lining, the thousands of nitrogen bubbles which protect the heat that go outside and get inside. And this is the neoprene suit, that is called the dry suit. These are the things that in this chapter we have come to know these things. The sea divers, what they wear, the neoprene suit and the nitrogen bubbles. So this is the first part of our chapter description, and we'll go for the second part within the few minutes for the question answering sessions. So what would be here the question answering sessions. Thank you.